Demo, not for broadcast. Property of WABC New York.
If you're thinking about changing schools, why wait? At Manhattan University, love those guys. You don't have to start over. With transfer-friendly pathways, your credits count, and you keep moving forward. From day one, you're part of Jasper Nation, preparing for the real world. And with New York City just a train away, opportunity is everywhere. Ready to move forward without missing a step? Visit manhattan.edu/transfer and enroll today. Manhattan University. Don't start over, move forward.
How does PwC take your company to the leading edge? They bring the sharpest minds in tech to your team, so you can bring the ideas that will transform your business. They're passionate about your industry, so you can walk into any room with every advantage. And they're with you every step of the way, so you can know you're headed in the right direction. PwC builds for what's next, so you can get there now. Get started at pwc.com/us/leading edge.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Good morning, New York region. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. We have Steve Cates. What's going on in the skies? Governor David Paterson, Senator George Borrello, Governor George Pataki, Governor Chris Christie on what's going on in New Jersey, Eric Shuffler on what's going on in New Jersey, John Cherritt, what's going on in the markets, and the president of the Citizens Budget Commission, Andrew Ryan, on what's going on with the New York budget. And let's start off with Michael Stoller on what's going on with the real estate report.
Good morning. This is Mike Stoller for the Stoller Real Estate Report. Who has the information of what's really happening in the real estate business? I may have some, but the guy who's really taken over for me, who's the leader in the industry, is my friend Shimon Shakuri, who's a founder and a principal at Ariel Property Advisors. Shimon is like a walking encyclopedia on information of what's happening in the market. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for the nice compliments. Nobody's replacing you. And one of the things that I wanted to mention is that I have a 65-person operation at Ariel, 7 partners as well, and all of them are putting the efforts here into this information, which is great. But you're right, 2025 has been a very interesting year. One of the things that investors looked at is the rule of three. They looked for value, they looked for fundamentals, and they looked for places where policy incentivized them to transact. And that's exactly what we saw. We saw that sellers were, in many cases, forced to sell, but in many cases wanted to stay in, which, again, adds to the conviction of New York City investment. We saw $35 billion, which is a 24% growth year over year. And the one word that comes to mind is momentum. And I'll tell you why. It's because the second half of the year was a lot more robust. By about
you had some major transactions the second half of the year.
Exactly. You had Paramount, you had 590 Madison. These two together are more than $5 billion. You had 800 Fifth Avenue. You had Waterside a recap. And so you had some major transactions, like you said, in the second half of the year. The food groups, multifamily, office development, were very transactional and interesting. Multifamily was about 25% of all transactions. And as you know, in multifamily, you have the rent-stabilized world, which is challenged. You had affordable housing, which is doing well. And you have free market, which is doing exceptionally well. On the rent-stabilized world, as we all know, we've still suffering with the HSTPA, the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act of 2019. That's the regulation that changed how rents can grow, and they can't grow as much moving forward. So part of the sales that you see, or a big part of the sales, are distressed sales. You've seen the start of the Pinnacle portfolio bankruptcy that Flagstar is leading. You've seen Summit buying into that. which is
interesting because Summit's an Israeli-based company, correct?
Yes, and they've been here before buying rent-stabilized multi. But what's interesting about their buy is the value. The valuation is about 40% compared to what it was pre-2019. And these are public numbers, so you can actually verify them, which is pretty interesting. So you have sellers that have to sell in the rent-stabilized world. You also have sellers that had enough. And so you saw a company like Related just doesn't need to sell, not forced to sell, but made a decision to sell their one of their portfolios in the Bronx to PH Realty at a 24% discount, not 40% discount. So still a discount, but not as heavy. And the reason these buyers are buying is because of the basis, because of that discounted basis, the fact that you can get a relatively high cash-on-cash return day one, and their understanding and our understanding that HSTPA, the Housing Stability and Tenant Protection Act, is just not sustainable. What's really interesting also is to see another transaction, or the tail end of a transaction that took place, which is the LEFRAC transaction, which started as a rent-stabilized transaction and ended as affordable housing. Got an Article 11. And that's a tool that the city has.
Explain in Article 11.
It's essentially giving an owner the ability to have a tax shelter for a very long period of time, let's say 40 years, but the building has to be affordable housing, has to cater to lower income tenants. In some cases, in most cases, has to also go through a major rehab. There's some cocktail of subsidies and financing that's involved in many cases. So that is a tool that the city and state have if they wanted to convert some of these rent-stabilized into affordable housing, which is really a win in many cases for the tenancy, for the city, and allows a mission-driven investor to also have an economic value long-term to sustain that affordability.
How are these programs like the 485X and the other programs helping out?
Yeah, that's a great question, because that is the development. And you're talking about the 485X, and we'll talk also about the 467M. The 485X replaced the tax abatement to build residential rentals. And what we see, Michael, which is super interesting, is about 247 transactions that are going to be rental developments happening in 2025. That's a 40% increase compared to the year before. But you know what's more interesting is that 95% of these transactions are going to be developed for buildings that have 99 units or under. And that tells a story. The story is that if you want to develop more than 99 units, you have a wage requirement which prevents it from being economically viable.
So in conclusion, you see 2026 as a good time?
I believe so, yes. We do see the fundamentals growing. We do see more transactions. Even with the administration, there's some positive notes in addition to everything that we're hearing, especially more construction of housing that we're hopeful for. So I believe 2026 is going to be a transactional year.
I thank you very much for being here and providing so much insight for my listeners. Take care.
Thank you very much, Michael. Appreciate it.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us every Sunday is Steve Cates, also known as Dr. Sky. Well, Steve Cates, what do you have to report today? Today, and this week was the 40th anniversary of the Challenger disaster. And have we learned anything from that?
Well, John, good morning. Happy February to you and the listeners. Going back here in time, we also had two other space tragedies. To answer your question, I shall in a moment. January 27, 1967. 3 astronauts that probably would have been the first crew to land on the moon, Grissom, Chaffee, and White, sadly perished in a horrific fire when their Apollo space command capsule, apparently a spark had ignited the oxygen. That was a tragedy. Then, of course, we marked the sad passing of the astronauts and the crew of Challenger. They never should have launched, John. This is something that will continue to be debated. The Rogers Commission, which Neil Armstrong was part of, they dug deep into this. They knew the ice was on the launch pad and on the rocket. That's sad. And then also the Columbia tragedy that we had, where those astronauts came back because of a piece of material that struck the left edge of the orbiter's wing. So to answer you, I hope we have learned about this. So and the point is, let's not rush to judgment, and let's not rush launches, not only my opinion, but others. Safety is the number one thing, John.
I'm very, very disappointed in the whole space program. In the last 40 years, I don't think we've accomplished much, in my opinion.
I respect your opinion, and I can just add that hopefully this next mission is what hopefully NASA has learned a lot about. And stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, because in the next week or so, the earliest launch window for Artemis 2. This is a launch of 4 people that will head around the moon, something we haven't done since 1968 with Apollo 8. But what's interesting about this 10-day mission is a new and improved spacecraft. They've checked pretty much everything, John, on this, and we can hopefully say that it's bulletproof. But going on to your point there, so many people have criticism of NASA, but in not a total, to defend them. Look at the small amount of money that they get from the government. Their budget is pretty small compared to other government agencies. But 2 quick things, John, that they have to learn about from this particular mission, and hopefully they've cured the problem. They'll be entering the atmosphere once they return from the moon at the highest speed humans have ever come back, 25,000 miles per hour. And one of the issues they had with Artemis 1 was the heat shield behind those astronauts on this particular mission. Let's hope it all goes well. NASA needs a big shot in the arm. And then after that, John, Artemis 3 would be a landing on the moon. But like I said before, let's not rush it, because that is a technological challenge that we haven't done in a long time. And the private side with Elon and SpaceX is really kind of ahead of us, don't you think, in many other areas of technology. Yes.
I did not know we were preparing for that.
Yes, John, it's something that the news media has just jumped on the bandwagon. And again, it's a little late if you look at how these launches have been. They have these long gaps in between here, but I'm hoping on the side of safety and making sure that these missions work properly. It's a new and improved spacecraft. The Orion capsule, this one is known as Integrity. And if you and I were to go inside of it, unless we're claustrophobic, imagine that mission. They'll be sailing 4,000 miles above the surface of the moon, going around farther than astronauts have, and they're using the gravity of the moon to slingshot back to the Earth. That's an amazing.
And let me ask you a question. How far away on the schedule are we from landing on the moon?
John, the guess is from NASA, at least our space side, and SpaceX may have a different answer, but I'm saying probably 2028 or 2029. And the Chinese, with their advanced space program, John, they may be doing it sooner because they made a historic anniversary. We move on to 2029. But let's do it right. And I don't think we should have a space race anymore just to get there. We've done this. We've done it well. But I think, John, that's another story.
I just don't know how we went to the moon 55 years ago, and now we're struggling to go back.
John, that's a mystery that I can't even answer. But, John, on the positive side, just a couple of other interesting subjects for this morning. We all hear about the Voyager 1 spacecraft. Where is it? What is it? It's a spacecraft still going and moving out 15 billion miles away from the sun and Earth. But what about Voyager 2? John, it's still going out in the opposite direction, some 12.3 billion miles away. It's moving out past where the sun's so-called energy field, called the heliopause. So it's really out in deep space. If you want to talk about positives, those unmanned spacecraft, don't you think, are totally incredible. And we give a lot of credit to those people, the engineers that built those, still working since they were launched back in 1977. To me, that's totally incredible with old technology, John.
Anything else on your mind today?
Quickly, a mystery of the week. How about this one? Stephen Hawking has told us before he passed away. He said that mankind needs to move off this particular planet. And for people that may not know this, the population, John, 100 years ago in 1926, worldwide, has allegedly had been, or was, 2 billion souls. Now, if you take a look at it, look at this astronomical jump. Pretty accurate, John, as we speak right now. 8,272,000,000 souls now occupy the planet Earth. And this is very interesting because Stephen Hawking's vision was that we need to move out to the stars, not just in a Star Trek or sci-fi way. But that's incredible, John. So just this year, if we look at these statistics, 5,280,000 births have just happened just this month alone into the new year. So, John, without overdoing it, Earth is a very populated place, and we still haven't figured out how to all get along. And that's the biggest question of all.
But the reproductive rate is so way down that it's going to start going the other way right now.
Absolutely. You are correct in your statistics there. But like I said, with so many people on the planet, that is, without using the term overly using, astronomical jump. Incredible stuff, John, that hopefully we can colonize the stars. But probably, like you and I would both agree, it's not going to happen anytime soon. So hopefully.
And not in our lifetime.
You're 100% right. Thank you for your time. And always remember to check in with the Dr. Sky Experience Saturdays and Sundays, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have you and the crew to thank for that. Have a great Sunday.
You too. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
Listen to this podcast now on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Leadership Thread with Dr. Peggy Polonis.
I'm Dr. Peggy Polonis. Join me on each episode where I unravel the story that shaped leaders, tracing the thread that led them where they are today. Because leadership isn't born in adulthood. And thank you once again for joining us on the Leadership Thread, education, ethics, and sustainability.
Download all of Red Apple Media's podcasts right now through your favorite podcast platform. This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us, like every Sunday, is Governor David Paterson. Where do we start this morning, Governor?
Well, John, we've got to do a good interview this morning because a lot of people are sad on this Sunday. It's February the 1st. It's the week before the Super Bowl. It's, you know, when they finish the regular season and they take that week off, and then the Super Bowl will be played on the 15th. So we got to liven things up around here. And the person who's really livening things up around New York City is the mayor, Zoran Mamdani, who is still arguing for a tax increase that would go to the top 2% of wage earners and would help to bail the city out from what he's calling a $12 billion budget deficit. Governor Hochul, in my opinion, will not accede to his request at all until at least November 4th, which will be Election Day. She'll get reelected, and then she can think it over. But Governor Hochul, to me, you know, just knowing her personally, I don't think that she likes to do this type of thing, raise taxes on people. So we'll see how that goes.
We definitely don't want the exodus to continue. And there's been an exodus in the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years.
People are finding that they can go to other states, they can raise their families, good school systems, and leave New York. Now, there are a lot of people coming into New York. They're younger people graduating from college and graduate school. So that's the good news about down the road. But right now, we're at an inflection point where we've got to figure out how we're going to address the deficits that we seem to run up every year in spite of what any governor or any mayors around the state are saying, or even what the legislators are saying. And it's just like in a family. Sometimes things aren't going well. When the family members loses a job, you got to dig in and try to dig yourself out of the mess. And in this case, it's the family of New York struggling for survival.
We're all struggling for survival, and I understand that what I've continuously said is we want the quality of life. I mean, you could ask for more money, but it's got to connect with the quality of life in New York.
And the quality of life in New York is such that all the other states envy it from time to time, but it's situations like this when we have not managed correctly. John, this week is the 20th anniversary of an agency that was set up in Albany back in 2005 at the behest of the late Assemblyman Richard Brodsky. And what that office does is it examines all of the different entities that are allowed to issue debt around the state. And that bill in 2005 cleared up the whole thing. So now, it's not just the MTA, and it's not just the Port Authority, and it's not just the other agencies. They are now all held to the same standard. They have to answer to any member of the public that wants to ask them a question, and they're not allowed to hide money, because up until this bill was passed in 2005, John, almost 100 years before, these agencies didn't even tell the elected officials how much money they were spending. So it's that kind of grit that the late Assemblyman showed that we're going to need right now, because everybody's going to have to take a little bit of a loss until we can get the economy straightened out in the state.
What do you think about the country?
I would say for the most part, people in the country are acting, a lot more rationally than maybe in some of the past few years. And I think that people are, trying to live their lives and go to work and that kind of thing. There are issues that have excited a certain percentage of the country to the point that they've participated in demonstrations and let their voices be heard. And when they do, as long as there's no violence or anything like that, I don't have any problem with that. But there are pockets of this country where I think there's tremendous anger, and I think the people who are angry are not even really fully informed about what they would be angry about. So I'd say it's the country is in a place right now that's not bad.
Governor David Paterson, I want to thank you for always coming on and always speaking your mind. And let's pray for our city, pray for our state, pray for our country, and pray for the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Governor George Pataki. And Governor, what's on your mind this Sunday morning, and how are we doing?
Apart from the weather, which is on everybody's mind, the snow and the cold and the fact that we're having a real winter, there are two different things. One, the national economy seems to be doing great. The economy's growing, inflation isn't rising too high, and the country as a whole seems to be doing well economically. And then you come to New York. Not only do we have one of the second highest tax burden in the country, but now Mondami is proposing massive tax increases on successful people in New York, business people and others. If that is allowed to happen, it's going to be a catastrophe. People have left. We've already lost way over 1 million people. A lot of them people who would have paid a lot of taxes, they're gone, and they're not coming back. And if Mondami gets his way, it's just going to be far worse. So I'm very concerned about New York. I think nationally, our economy is going to do fine. In New York, I'm really worried.
Mondami, we were hoping that he'll do the right things, but he's advocating the rise of taxes, and it's up to Governor Hochul to shoot him down. And I was on Fox Television the other day, and I joked around and I said, well, we know that Governor Hochul is not going to raise taxes by November 4th because it's an election year. But I can't promise what November 5th will bring.
That's exactly right. She's going to tell him no between now and November because this is an election year. But as soon as November is over, if history with how she acts is any guide, the legislature and she are going to say, okay, it's too bad, but yes, go raise taxes. And it'll be a disaster. That's what happened with congestion pricing. Oh, we're going to stop
100%.
Congestion pricing.
Yes.
And then right after the election, we had congestion pricing.
It felt like 5 minutes after the election.
That's exactly right. And hopefully it's not going to happen. But I'll tell you, John, just the announcement that we're going to try to raise taxes on the successful people in New York City sends a message, even if they're not successful and they don't raise them, that it's sooner rather than later. And you take a look and say, is there someplace I should go other than New York? I mean, Texas has no tax. Florida has no tax. Tennessee has no tax. I think there's 11 states that have no tax. And New York City has the highest tax in the country. Well, the national economy, I think, will be fine. New York is struggling, and after this election, I think things could just get worse.
You can't keep spending money. I'm having on Andrew Wine, the president of Citizens Budget Commission, and he's concerned about the budgets, and he's concerned about that we're going to overdraw the budgets and the amount of employees that New York City has. It went as high as 327,000 people, he said, and right now we're like at 306,000. Governor, I just don't know, and I pray for New York.
I do, too, because it's just nuts, John. The budget is out of control. I mean, look at this year. Wall Street has had a good year, so Albany has money. And what does Hochul do? Massive increases in spending, massive increases. And we have so-called temporary taxes that were passed in Albany 10 years ago that were supposed to be phased out. So long as Hochul and the Democrats run Albany, they're not going to be phased out. They're going to be there forever. And my fear is they're just going to get worse. And, you know, you're right. We want Mondami to succeed. We want New York to thrive. But these are exactly the wrong policies. Government that's too big, it's too expensive. And instead of trying to figure out ways to make it less expensive, they just want to take more from the people who actually work and make money.
What else you want to tell all New Yorkers and all Americans on a Sunday morning?
One thing completely different is on Tuesday, my son is leading a delegation from the Pataki Leadership Center to Ukraine. You know, with all the chaos going on around the world, people tend to overlook the fact that Ukraine is still mired in this horrible war. And this winter, a lot of the Ukrainians have no heat or power. So we're having a mission over there to work with young people in Ukraine, and we're going to be working on sports programs, particularly a touch football program that's going to be in the Olympics. We're going to have coaching and clinics, and then we're going to have watch parties for the Super Bowl and some of the other things going on, and just a way to try to build morale. And I have to tell you that the State Department funded this program. You know, yes, it's not guns, it's not airplanes or tanks, but it's trying to tell the young people of Ukraine, someday this war is going to end. You're going to be important, and we're going to try to make your lives a little better right now. So my son Owen is leading that delegation, and I think they'll do a lot to try to help the morale of the young people, the kids in Ukraine.
Governor George Pataki, thank you so much for coming on, and let's hope it warms up a little bit in New York. Thank you so much.
I totally agree, John. God bless you, and God bless America and our 250th anniversary of this great country.
With us is Senator George Borrello, and he's from the Western New York. And one of these days, I'm going to say it right,
You're getting closer. Chautauqua
County. I said it, Chautauqua County. Well, Senator Borrello, what the heck is going on in New York City, New York State?
You know, Mayor Mamdani, while he has yet to fill out his cabinet, while we don't have someone in charge of sanitation for New York City, he's deciding he's going to roll out his tax increase plans and put pressure on Governor Hochul and the Democrats in Albany to bow to his demands. And the guy that said he was going to tax the rich is now talking about things like increasing the sales tax, which is not exactly taxing the rich now, is it? He's talking about increasing corporate taxes and which hits small businesses as well.
I hear the number that they're looking at is 10% sales tax,
which is outrageous. That will be the largest sales tax anywhere in New York State. And also, you're already paying a lot of taxes in New York State in general, but in New York City in particular, people pay a tax for the privilege to drive into work. This is not taxing the rich. This is taxing the working class. If you work in Manhattan and you live in one of the outer boroughs or Long Island or wherever, you're paying a tax just for the privilege of driving into New York City. These are the kind of things that that Zoran Mamdani loves. I mean, it's the Marxist economic plan, and that's the problem. And here's what's already happening in New York State. We just found out the news. New York's probably going to lose 2 more congressional seats in this next census and the next redistricting. 2 more seats after losing, I think, a half a dozen already. New York is bleeding population, and the population we are bleeding the most are the productive people, the people that own businesses, that pay taxes. And Zoran Mamdani wants to drive them out even further with these ridiculous tax increases.
And I also understand they might go to 13.5%. The number I hear rumors of 13.5% on state taxes.
Yeah, and that's again another one. He called it's only a couple more percent for the wealthiest people. No, it's a huge increase. And here's the thing about the wealthiest New Yorkers right now that are already paying nearly half the taxes, if not more, in this state. They're going to leave. We already know that because they are leaving. And when you are, someone who is at the top echelon, you probably already have a home in a state where there's zero sales tax. We see this literally every single day. People fleeing New York to go to lower tax states like Florida. And for somebody who already has a home there, it's a matter of just filling out a change of address card. And now all of a sudden you're living in Florida. For the middle class, for the working class, it's not that easy. And who's going to end up paying all of these increases in the cost of government? It's going to be the working class. Okay, the mobile classes, the people at the higher end of the income spectrum, they have options. It's the working class that's going to suffer as a result of this, this Marxist economic playbook that Mamdani is pushing.
But this is an election. It's an election year, and Governor Hochul is an election year. Doesn't she have to be careful?
Well, yeah, and trust me, she's already moving. She's voluntarily suspended the all-electric buildings mandate, which you and I have talked about. She's pushing to try to tamp down some of the worst parts of the climate leadership and all these ridiculous laws and rules. She's hitting the pause button temporarily to get herself through the election. But remember, she's going to hit that play button if she wins re-election. And that's what everyone has to understand. They're going to have a battle in Albany to try to push back against Zohran Mamdani's increases, but that may only be temporary. There may only be a short win to get them all through the election. The long-term solution is a change in leadership. We need responsible people, common sense leadership, and people that understand that the productive people in New York State are the ones that are footing the bill now, and we need to make it better for them and not worse.
What do you want to tell all New Yorkers? I mean, don't leave. Tell them don't leave. There's hope coming.
Yes. Well, first of all, John, you and I are the same. We're not leaving. We're staying. We want to make things better. That's why you do what you do, and I do what I do. But, New York State is a great place. It really is. And we have to make it a great place to raise a family, run a business, and for people to be able to live a good life and not just survive, but thrive. This is what Mamdani and the DSA and all the other socialists want. They want an equal amount of misery for everyone. And that is not a state that I want to live in. This is not a third world country. This is not Venezuela. But this is the kind of playbook that the Democrats in charge are bowing down to when they start listening to the likes of Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic Socialists, and everyone else that right now is puffing their chest out after this most recent win. They are trying to impose their version of this dystopian society on the rest of us, and we have to push back. We have to let common sense New Yorkers stand up and prevail.
Senator George Borrello, we'll talk to you again real soon.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
When you want your spring break to feel like and your kids' pool day to feel like and your hotel bed to feel like ooh, and room service to feel like because at Hilton, hospitality feels like
your cabana's ready. Would you like fresh towels?
It matters where you stay. Book now at Hilton.com. Hilton, for the stay.
The world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Class dismissed.
This class again?
Don't sit in courses you've already taken. University of Phoenix accepts eligible transfer credits and has a scholarship for transfer students. Finish your degree faster.
With Venmo Stash, a taco in one hand and ordering a ride in the other means you're stacking cash back. Nice. Get up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash on your favorite brands when you pay with your Venmo debit card. From takeout to rideshares, entertainment, and more, pick a bundle with your go-tos and start earning cash back at those brands. Earn more cash when you do more with Stash. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply. Max $100 cash back per month. See terms at venmo.me/stash terms.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable.
New Jersey, each Each day your beauty shines from farmland to the shore. New Jersey.
With us today is the former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie. What the heck is going on in New Jersey? Governor, what do you think?
Well, it's sad times right now for the Republican Party in New Jersey, John. You know, we had great hopes going into this election, but it was an absolute disaster. We lost the governorship by 14 points. We lost 5 seats in the New Jersey General Assembly. So it is a desperate time in New Jersey, and I'll tell you why. We forgot how to win, John. We forgot how to win in New Jersey, and it's costing us great potential taxpayers. It's costing us growth. We're one of the highest unemployment states in the country, and we've got a big budget problem coming up that the new governor is going to have to face that was left to her by Phil Murphy come this March. So it is some really desperate times here.
But everybody was so surprised because everybody thought it was a close race. I mean, and nobody could understand what happened.
You know, John, I think what happened was in New Jersey, as a Republican, this is the way you win. You win 95% of your own party, you win 15 to 20% of Democrats, and you win 60% or more of independents. And the problem for Jack Ciattarelli was when he tied himself so close to the president, a lot of independents in New Jersey were turned off by that. And for the first time in a long time, the Republican candidate for governor actually lost independents to the Democrat. And if that happens, you have no chance of winning because there's 850,000 more Democrats than Republicans in the state. And the fact is that the president is not nearly as popular in the state of New Jersey as he is in other parts of the country. And Jack made himself 100% MAGA, and that was something that really, really hurt him. Against someone like Mikey Sherrill, it turned out to be not just a small win, a small loss rather, but a huge one.
We were going to move our corporate offices to New Jersey, especially because we were afraid what's going to happen in New York under a socialist regime. And what should we do?
You know, look, you're between a rock and a hard place, John. You know, I don't trust your new mayor one bit. You know, we now have a bigger Democratic majority in the legislature and a Democratic governor. I wouldn't be surprised if they raise taxes again this June because they've got some serious budget problems. So I don't think there are any good choices for you. I mean, I can tell you this. She's not a socialist, Governor Sherrill, like Mayor Mamdani isn't. So maybe you're slightly better off in New Jersey. And obviously we'd love to have you here. But it would have been a much easier choice if we had a Governor Ciattarelli.
A lot of New Yorkers say, where do we go? New Jersey, Tennessee, South Carolina, or Florida, the promised land?
Yep.
What do you say to New Jerseyites that say that to you?
Look, what I say to them is, you know, you're getting the government you voted for. And that's the bottom line here is that New Jerseyans voted for this. And I say to folks who didn't vote for it, you've either got to hang in there, and what I would hope they would do is hang in there and try to change the government at the midterm in 2027, and then elect a new Republican governor in 2029 to really change things. But if they can't wait that long, then they've got no choice but to leave if they just don't want to pay these taxes anymore. We have the highest corporate tax rate in America. We have some of the highest property taxes in America. And, you know, we have a big income tax. So, you know, it is a very tough place, but I bet you it's going to be better than New York.
Anything else you want to tell all people in New Jersey?
Look, I think for my constituents in New Jersey, we have to stand up and be counted. And we have to be able to stand up for the things that we believe are right. And in this last election, we got ourselves caught up in national politics. New Jersey never does well when we get caught up in national politics, John. We've got plenty of problems here to fix. We've got taxes that are too high. We've got energy costs that are out of control because of crazy liberal policies on energy that reject natural gas in favor of things like wind and solar. You know, these are things that we just can't have any longer. It's making it impossible to afford to live here. And so we got to get out of playing national politics, get back concentrated on home, John, because if we concentrate on New Jersey, remember something. This is an amazing statistic now that we're in 2026. I am the only Republican to win statewide in this century in New Jersey.
Well, Governor Chris Christie, we look forward to talking more often, and thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning.
Anytime you want me on Sunday morning, John, you got me.
Thank you so much.
The Cats Roundtable.
What is going on in New Jersey? With us today is Eric Schuffler. He's a Democratic operative in New Jersey and a partner in our baseball team. Well, Eric, yeah, it's a new year. We haven't talked since the new year, and you got a new governor, and it was your candidate that won. Tell us, how is New Jersey going to shape out?
Thank you, John. Super exciting to be here, and God bless America, and God bless New York City and New Jersey, my homeland. I think this is one of the most exciting times in New Jersey with the election of Governor Mikey Sherrill, a really unique candidate. A lot of optimism, a lot of joy, a lot of sense of this is a fundamental shift that we're going to see in the state, even with a Democratic governor continuing Democratic control. Big changes are coming, John.
A lot of people are afraid, and we had that discussion the other day, that originally a lot of people thought she endorsed Mondami, which a lot of people in New York consider him a socialist. And you said that you feel that she's more of traditional Democratic, pro-business, left of center, but usually more like a Bill Clinton type.
Right. Listen, I am not a socialist. Those are not my politics. I think what you're seeing in Governor Sherrill is someone who has grown up with a military background, a law enforcement background, a patriotic American who represents a new wing of the Democratic Party, which is a party of strength and moderation and pro-business. And when you look at her messaging and what she's talked about so far, it's a lot of things that are different. This is not a far left, far progressive candidate governor, just like we're seeing in Virginia with Spangenberger. These are two governors that are focused on one, competence, moderation, progress, and how do we get things done? I think in many ways, John, it is similar to the pattern that our friend Josh Shapiro is setting in Pennsylvania, which is you can focus on how do I deliver good government? How do I talk genuinely to people? How do I avoid these extreme fights? A lot of it's the common sense, John, that you've talked about. But I think from Mikey Sherrill, what you're going to see is someone focused on cutting regulations, making government more transparent, making it easier to do business in New Jersey, making it easier and more predictable to get permits. And ultimately, her main message out of her gubernatorial campaign was, how do we make New Jersey more affordable? That is by far the number one thing that Governor Sherrill is driving. She's already done that with moves on electricity rates, but it's a theme that's going to come through her governorship. But I think the biggest takeaway is this is an independent, moderate Democrat that really represents the emerging wing of the Democratic Party.
Now, me and you are friends a long time, and it feels like a long time. And I was going to move our headquarters to New Jersey if Citarelli had won. And I was serious about it. And now we're you have your governor on. And what would you say to me about should I consider moving into New Jersey?
You should absolutely consider it. New Jersey offers so much. Talent, access to New York City, good government, good tax rates. But more importantly, I think this is a new era, John, that I think people are going to want to be part of. Businesses are going to want to be part of what's going to happen in New Jersey. Governor Murphy did an amazing job of attracting companies like AI, film. There is so much growing excitement in New Jersey. And coming to Bergen County, great people like Paul Sarlo, the budget chair, I think would be wonderful to help you do this. So give Governor Sherrill a chance. Let's see what it's like on this side of the river and continue to grow and build out in Lodi.
I will certainly do our research, and me and you will sit down and discuss it, and we'll certainly consider moving to New Jersey. And I know one of our companies is moving to New Jersey for sure.
That is awesome. We'll do it over a hot dog at a baseball game.
I look forward to it. I love those Nathan's hot dogs. And our friend Howard Lorber sold the company for only $450 million.
A lot of hot dogs.
Last week. Have a nice day and have a nice weekend, and we'll talk later.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. What the heck is going on in the markets? Well, we have a new Fed chairman. Gold has shot down again. So should it go up? Should it go down? Well, John Tennant, what the heck are we? Where are we?
Good morning, John. The big story, of course, came on Friday with Kevin Walsh being appointed or nominated as the new Fed chair. He's a conservative economist. Trump called him from central casting, straight out of central casting, he said. Now, the thing is, Kevin Walsh was once a rates hiker. He was a hawk. So obviously, President Trump has satisfied himself that he now has good rate-cutting credentials. Otherwise, he wouldn't be nominated. Kevin Hassett, who we all thought might get the job, who wanted the job, would stay at the National Economic Council at the White House. And now Kevin Walsh must convince the Wall Street people and the Congress that he is indeed the right man for the job. So it turned out to be a battle of two Kevins in the end. Company news, Apple turned in record earnings per share and a massive revenue beat last week. Extraordinary, $143 billion, not the $138 billion expected by Wall Street. That was because of record-breaking iPhone sales, particularly in China, I'm told. Microsoft, well, its cloud division, which is called Azure, only grew by 38%. It only grew by 38%. Well, Wall Street didn't reckon much to that and marked them down. Meta Platforms, on the other hand, a huge increase in capital expenditure, $115 billion to $130 billion. Wall Street thought it would be more like $110 billion, so the stock was marked up. Tesla sending $2 billion of its money over to XAI, the AI startup by the boss, Elon Musk. And I thought we'd make you smile on this Sunday morning because Elon Musk made the news this week. He wants to float SpaceX, his space company. And they said to him, when will you do it? And he said, when Venus and Jupiter converge, which apparently is around his birthday, which is June the 28th. So look out for a float for SpaceX on the exchanges around about early summer. And the crypto story of the week, John, well, the Senate Agriculture Committee did pass its portion of the crypto market structure bill, but the Banking Committee is yet to do so. So we're making slow progress there when it comes to sorting out a framework for crypto in this country and making America truly the crypto capital of the world. And so to next week, Wednesday, we get from Alphabet Google their earnings, and on Thursday it's Amazon, a company that last week said it's, or was reported that it's investing $50 billion in OpenAI, the ChatGPT people. We knew they were going to do it, but $50 billion is a lot more than we thought. John.
Well, John, thank you so much, and God bless you. And I think the economy is going to go higher and better than ever in 2026. Thank you so much.
Well, it certainly seems set fair at the moment. It really does. Have a great week, John. Thank you. See you next Sunday.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Andrew Rain, and he's the president of the Citizens Budget Commission. There's a lot of controversy. Who is telling us the truth? Tell us what's going on.
So what we are hearing, first from the controller and then validated from his opinion from the mayor, is the city faces a substantial budget gap next year. Now, we estimate that budget gap as up to $8 billion. The mayor has said over 2 years it's $12 billion. He has said that revenues are strong and he's going to come back with a refined estimate. So we're a little apart now. Maybe he'll come down a bit. But the reality is, no matter how you slice that number, the gap will not magically disappear. This isn't like, oh, revenues are gangbusters, see, we have no problem. They are very strong, but we still have a problem, and it is a problem that the administration is going to have to take deliberate action to close it. And the question is, what actions will the administration take, and how will it affect New Yorkers and New York today and in the future?
We had former First Deputy Mayor Randy Mastro on, and he says the $2 billion gap, that there's enough money in reserves to take care of it, and nobody should panic.
Here's the thing. That $2 billion gap this year, I'm hoping that the revenues are strong enough and there's some slow spending that it goes away that way. Yes, there is money in reserves that could be used to cover it, but we need to save those reserves for a recession. The business cycle is still a factor of our economy as it has been for the last century. And if we deplete our recessionary reserves, we hit a wall in the economy at some point in time, and I can't tell you when, and we won't have anything to protect New York. We need to protect those reserves. So this year, though, I think, that projected budget gap will probably be lower or go away because revenues are going to be stronger, and we have a lot of vacancies, so there's underspending. But here's what we've also heard from Mayor Mamdani is he has said that the gap is the fault of the prior administration and then squeezing from Albany over time. Here's what we have seen is the prior administration radically under-budgeted for expected spending. We have a housing voucher program that will cost us $1.4 billion this year, yet when the budget was adopted, they only put in $600 million. That is not the cause of the problem. That hides the problem, but it's not the cause. The cause of the budget problem we're facing today, it's self-inflicted, it's not economically driven, and the mayor's talked about that, but the cause is that the prior administration and the administration before layered on new programs, expanded programs, but did not have the political will to shrink or eliminate other programs that don't actually improve the lives of New Yorkers. And if they had done that, these new programs, and some of them are good, but they would have been affordable. But if you just keep layering on without shrinking outdated programs that aren't helping New Yorkers, you end up spending more than you have, and eventually you hit a fiscal wall, and that's the wall we're hitting now.
Now, I'll tell you one other thing. There was 270,000 or 275,000 employees in the city, and all of a sudden it went to 300,000 at some point. And that these other 25,000, 30,000 people are maybe political appointees or whatever, and they're really not needed.
So here is, again, the facts about the city workforce. We have seen over a long period of time, multiple administration, that when the economy goes down, the workforce shrinks, generally through attrition, but they don't rehire people. And at the Great Recession, the workforce shrank from 311,000, I'm talking full-time and full-time equivalent. It shrank and then built up at the end of 2019 to 327,000 people. We are now and I haven't checked the latest date, around the 306,000. That's full-time and part-timers equivalent. We're now at the 306,000. We should be able to run government well with this amount of workers, and maybe less if it's managed well. There are places, however, though right now that actually should be hiring some people because, for example, if you need a building permit, if you need a zoning change and you want to develop housing, which we need, we don't want that to be slowed down because of vacancies at Housing Preservation and Development or the Department of City Planning. But still, the key really is to get the managerial prowess and to get the efficiencies in government so that we can have a lower cost but higher performing government. And that serious exercise needs to be taken. And frankly, yesterday, the mayor signed an executive order saying that there should be a savings officer in each agency to look at these efficiencies, get rid of what doesn't work. And I think that is a promising step. I wish it would have come earlier, but we need to hold his feet to the fire to do this because no one has had the political will to say, this isn't working, let's stop it.
So it should be about 300,000 employees, and we're just about there. What does it cost per 1,000 employees?
Each employee, and I'd have to look at with their benefits, costs I think a little over $100,000 now. But I'd have to look at it because it's not the salaries that are high. Frankly, some of them are challenged to recruit people, but we have benefits for certain employees that are high. But really, it's about using the employees to the best of their ability. We have outmoded technology, redundant processes where we approve a budget for an agency and approve a headcount for an agency, and then they go to hire a person and they have to approve it again. We have these redundant processes that cost us time and money. So that's where we have to go. So on the headcount stuff, what we need is better management and allocation of people. And frankly, that's where we're a union town. We have to work with the unions and figure out how to improve job titles, work processes, and sometimes we've gain shared. If the city can save money, use some of that money to help give raises to workers, but we can have a smaller, higher performing government, which is the win-win for all New Yorkers.
Now, Andrew, I'm in the real estate business in New York, and I'm scratching my head if I should continue, because we're limited to building 99 apartments. Otherwise, the numbers go crazy.
We have a severe housing shortage, as you know better than I, because of underdevelopment for the last 15 or plus years. There's been some progress. City of Yes and the city did well. Some of the reforms at the state in 485X, some other reforms did well. 485X, which is what you're talking about, which is an incentive program. And you have to balance. If you're going to develop, if you have affordability requirements and labor requirements in certain parts of the city, if they don't balance out, we're not going to develop housing. So one of the failures of 485X was not balancing those incentives right, or those requirements right, and suddenly everyone's building 99 unit buildings in certain parts of the city because they can't, because as soon as you go to 100, you're going to increase your cost so much it's not worth it. That is a law that should be modified, changed, modernized, because we need to build housing. Everyone knows it, and suddenly we're going to have the world's leading number of 99 unit buildings.
What we're planning on doing is maybe not building at all, because I don't want to waste the property and for 99 apartments and hope that the law will change in the near future.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And the challenge, as you know well, is once it was tough to get to the deal. Once the deal is made, everyone kind of wants to walk away for a few years. It would be much better if they came back and revisited and changed that. But I will say this: the governor has proposed, and it sounds arcane, but has proposed to take a scalpel to the state's environmental review laws to make sure that it is easier to build certain housing in certain places. That's actually a smart reform that I hope gets negotiated through, because that will help. It doesn't solve the 99 unit problem, but it will help speed other projects that we need. So there is efforts, and I hope that everyone gets on what's called SECRA, State Environmental Quality Review Act. Hopefully we can get that reform through. So the governor did do that, but again, you're right. What is called 485X should be reformed to modify those requirements, or else we're not building as much housing as we can or we need.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for coming on this Sunday morning and telling the people the truth. The Citizens Budget Commission, a nonpartisan body, and thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
The Cats Roundtable.
If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. Thank you for being with us for the Cats Roundtable Local Edition, the #1 show on Sunday mornings in New York. Keep listening to us for the Cats Roundtable National Edition between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes after the news.
Every week, the Payne family cuts straight to the real financial story.
The one question, Bob, everyone's asking is, are we in an artificial intelligence bubble? You've been through boom and bust. What do you think?
No hype, no myths. Just what actually matters to your money.
Does feel very similar to what we experienced in the 90s. Where are we, though? Are we in 1995, 1997, 1999?
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, the holidays have come and gone once again, but if you've forgotten to get that special someone in your life a gift, well, Mint Mobile is extending their holiday offer of half off unlimited wireless. So here's the idea. You get it now. You call it an early present for next year. What do you have to lose? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Limited time 50% off regular price for new customers. Upfront payment required. $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan. Taxes and fees extra. Speeds may slow after 50 gigabytes per month when network is busy. See terms.